What a difference a year makes. Or does it? This is KD Drummond of bloggingtheboys.com, and I'm here to talk about the top 5 things in 2013 that are going to be different from how the Dallas Cowboys did them in 2012. Now, we can't start talking about what's different without first addressing what's going to be the same. First and foremost, Jerry Jones is still the owner and the GM of the Dallas Cowboys. It's been that way for almost a quarter century, people. Not going to change. Not happening. So, move on. Jason Garrett is still going to be the head coach, heading into his 3rd season as the main man. Also not changing is the fact that Tony Romo is the Dallas Cowboys quarterback. It's been that way since 2006. Not changing. He's a top 10 quarterback. He does have momentary lapses, gigantic brain freezes that kill a game. It happens. He's also very scintillating, the type of guy that can make a play out of nothing, escape pressure, complete the downfield pass. Love Tony Romo as my quarterback. Going to be this way for a while. As I said, not changing. Now, back to the things that are going to be different. Number 5 is going to be the possibility that they're going to incorporate the Erhardt-Perkins play calling system into their offense. What the EP system does, it doesn't change the playbook. It's not a brand new scheme. It's going to change from, the Air Coryell system that Jason Garrett runs, where you look deep before you look short. The Erhardt-Perkins system is simply a way of calling the plays that shrinks the amount of time it takes to get the play called to your receivers, to your linemen, etc., etc. Now, throughout OTAs and the minicamp, Dallas has seemed to maintain what they've done in years past, having a very long play call. That's 12 words. It tells everybody what they need to do individually, and it kind of is part of the reason why the play clock will oftentimes be running down to 0 before they actually call hike on the ball. Now, what the EP system does is it truncates that, it shortens it, and it allows players to be able to get the play call quickly, bring up the pace. It happens a lot in no-huddle situations. You see Tom Brady of the Patriots use it oftentimes, and I think that as Dallas transitions to using the no-huddle in more situations than just a 4-minute offense and the 2-minute offense, you're going to see them incorporating this into the way that they play to try to quicken the pace and keep defenses on their heels. As we've seen in the past, Romo is actually very proficient in running the no-huddle offense, so I'm very hopeful that we're going to see a lot of this in the 2013 season. That brings us to point number 4, which is the fact that Romo is going to be far more involved in the game planning of the Dallas Cowboys offense than he has been in the past. We've already heard that all offseason Romo's been involved in the meetings with the coaches and doing a lot more than he has in the past. This was even before he got his extension. He's actually been more involved in things. And I think the way that this is going to influence the Dallas Cowboys offense is that with him being in more than just the quarterback meetings and the offensive meetings, you're actually going to see his input more on what actually works for the Cowboys offense. But more importantly, we're going to see the avoidance of what he thinks doesn't work. He's going to actually have input on the scheming for the teams week in, week out, far beyond what he's had in the past. And I think that can only be a good thing, is to have the general that's on the field being more in tune with what's going on as the plays are being scripted for the beginning of the game, the adjustments that are being made. I think Romo's a bright guy, and I think he'll have a lot to add to this offense in that role. Number 3 is going to be the shifting towards the 12 personnel set as being the base Cowboys offense as opposed to the 21 set. Obviously, the 12 refers to 1 running back, 2 tight ends, as opposed to 2 running backs and 1 tight end, which is normally what you see when you have a fullback in play. For now, Lawrence Vickers is still on the roster, but he's suffering from a back injury. I don't think he's going to make it on the roster out of training camp. And Dallas is already working in the use of players at other positions, mostly linebackers like Caleb McSurdy, as a fullback for those times when they get down on the goal line and they want to go with 2 running backs out of the backfield. If the Cowboys were intent on staying with a fullback, they would have brought one in just to practice those plays, but you haven't seen that happen since Vickers has been out with the injury. So I think all signs point to the 12 personnel. They drafted Gavin Escobar in the 2nd round. We're looking forward to seeing what he can do. All reports out of the OTAs and mini camps, he catches everything that's around him, low, high, stretch out, doesn't matter. The man has great hands. When you combine that with the speed that James Hanna has the ability to threaten the top of the defense with, and combined with the all-world greatness of Jason Witten, you can really see the Cowboys doing some great things with the 12 personnel set. It allows them to mask whether they want to run or pass. When you have those 2 threats in addition to the 5 offensive linemen, now you have 7 blockers for the one-cut zone blocking scheme that DeMarco Murray should thrive in. Obviously, I spoke about the fact that they can threaten the defense. A guy like Escobar can run the 10-yard hook route and just turn around and box out the defender. James Hanna can blow by safeties and linebackers. So it should be very interesting to see what Dallas can do with this Brinkley in their offense as being the base set. They have tried it before. I don't think they've had the weapons that they do right now in Hanna and Escobar to complement Jason Witten when they tried it previously with Martellus Bennett, Anthony Fasano, and even when it was Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell was strictly a blocking tight end at that time. So even though they ran a lot of 12 personnel sets to aid in the running game, he wasn't the threat that these guys are in the passing game. So that's number 3. Number 2 is going to be the fact that Bill Callahan is now calling all of the offensive plays for the Dallas Cowboys. He's going to be the eye in the sky, bird's eye view. He's going to be in the coach's box, and that'll allow him to actually watch the game unfold. If you're familiar with the all-22 camera angle that coaches use on coaches tape, this is going to be a big bonus for the Cowboys to actually have somebody having that view and watching how the defense is scheming to stop the plays, as opposed to Jason Garrett doing that. I am going to talk about the fact that separating those duties from Jason Garrett, I think, will free him up more so to be an in-game coach of the greater scale, being able to touch on some of the things that a head coach does. A lot was made with the media over this. I thought it was much to do about nothing. At first, they were all complaining that Jason Garrett wouldn't reveal what was going on with the coaching with who's going to call the plays, even though if you were watching the OTAs, Bill Callahan was calling all the plays during the OTA, so it wasn't a secret. Jason Garrett hinted at this as early as the Bill Callahan introductory press conference, that as soon as Callahan got familiar with the offense and with Romo, he would have no problem handing the duties over to him. But for some reason, the Dallas media wanted to make it a big deal about him being stripped of the duties of being a play caller, and that Jerry Jones was cutting him off at the knees, even though this has been in the works for the greater part of the last year and a half. Now, of course, once it came out that Jerry Jones finally got tired of deflecting the question about who was going to be calling the plays, now all of a sudden it's, the Cowboys are in such disarray that they can't get on the same page as far as when the announcement comes and everything. Folks, it's just what Jerry Jones does. And as I alluded to in the introduction, Jerry Jones is going to be here, so you just kind of got to get used to it and you brush it off. It doesn't mean that he's emasculating Jason Garrett by the fact that he let it slip, something that Jason Garrett wanted to keep private, because Jason Garrett simply doesn't want to tell the media any and everything about the way the Cowboys are being run. And you can't blame him, especially the way that the Dallas media sometimes seems to always manufacture controversies when there really isn't any. So Callahan is going to be calling the plays. He's done it before. He didn't call the plays while he was an assistant under John Gruden, but he did the year that he took the team to the Super Bowl as a head coach. He's done it before. We'll have to see what happens, whether he focuses more on the run. But one thing we do know is that the Cowboys are pretty much running all zone blocking scheme with their offensive line, as opposed to the man-to-man blocking combination CBS that they did last year. So this is going to be all zone blocking scheme, and that's when all of the offensive linemen work in conjunction with each other to push the defense in one direction or the other, as opposed to having man-on-man blocking responsibilities. Pretty much you put them on rails and you try to slide the defense one way so that the running back can find the holes to cut through and then get upfield. Now that leads us to the number one change for the Dallas Cowboys in 2013, switching over to the 4-3 defense from the 3-4. I'm very ecstatic, very hopeful about the way that this is going to play out. Obviously, soon after the season was over, the Dallas Cowboys fired Rob Ryan, let him go. At the time, I was indifferent. Before they fired him, I said I wouldn't really care if they let him go or if they retained him. I'd be happy with either one, simply because I saw perks in what he was doing, but I also saw flaws in what he was doing. Bringing in Monty Kiffin and Rod Marinelli, and then keeping on hand linebackers coach Matt Eberflus and secondary coach Jerome Henderson. I'm very excited about the defensive staff that Dallas has put together. Now, the switch from the 4-3 to the 3-4 for the Cowboys allows them to get an extra athlete on the field. As a 3-4, when he was healthy, they had Jay Ratliff on the defensive line as a very athletic nose tackle, but he was being double teamed. Then you had guys that weren't the greatest of athletes as your defensive ends, and then of course you obviously had your athletes in DeMarcus Ware and Anthony Spencer as outside linebackers, and then Sean Lee and Bruce Carter as your interior linebackers. So you had 4 athletes pretty much, but now you have 5 because you're adding in, you're moving down DeMarcus Ware and Anthony Spencer to defensive end. You're putting them on the line of scrimmage. No more pass coverage responsibilities. They're going to get after the quarterback on every play, stop the run on the way to the quarterback. You're moving Jay Ratliff away from being double teamed into being only having one man to beat when he's playing the 3 technique. They will interchange Jason Hatcher and Jay Ratliff at the 1 and the 3 techniques. But for the most part, you're going to see Jay Ratliff as a Warren Sapp type 3 technique, get up the field one-on-one against a guard. You're also going to be adding in a Sam linebacker, who at this point looks to be Justin Durant, a free agent that we signed from Detroit, as another supreme athlete in the fold for Dallas Cowboys. So suffice to say, the front seven is going to be chock full of players that can rally around the ball. They can pursue pretty much play sideline to sideline. They can get after the quarterback. It's going to be a dynamic thing to see. And I don't think there's going to be a problem with the Cowboys adapting to this offense, because it's more simplified than all of the things that they had to do with Rob Ryan. This is basically, they're going to have twists and stunts, they're going to have variations, but it's basically get after the quarterback if you're on the front four, rally around the ball carrier if you're a linebacker. And it's not going to be so much stunt and scheme based as the Rob Ryan 3-4 was. So I think first and foremost, that'll be the Cowboys' biggest adjustment for 2013. The fact that now their defense is actually going to be trying to get this pressure on the quarterback on an everyday basis and just beating the man in front of them, as opposed to trying to trick them into thinking they see something and going the wrong direction and so on and so forth. Not to mention the fact that I don't think Rod Marinelli or Monty Kiffin is going to be getting 15-yard penalties for coming onto the field and yelling at the referees on the other team, which is something that I will not miss from Rob Ryan, and hopefully I will not have to see a repeat of 10 men on the field and 12 men on the field penalties and all those sorts of mishaps that seem to happen all too frequently under Rob Ryan. So there you go. Those are the top 5 things that I think are going to be different for the Dallas Cowboys in 2013 as compared to 2012. Only time will tell to see if there's tangible effects on the team as they make these transitions for the new season. It's coming up shortly. Training camp will start. Kicks off July 21st. Can't wait. Make sure you stay on BTB. We're going to have great coverage. A couple of our writers are heading out there to cover the camp for you. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'll have all the updates here. And make sure you go to iTunes, look for Cowboys Crunch Time with KD podcast. We'll have daily reports, and we'll be back with a couple more top 5 lists shortly. Subscribe to all of our channels: SB Nation, SBN Football. Salute.